company called Pavilion Data, and he has over 20 years of broad cross-functional leadership experience in the technology industry. He also worked at Pure Storage for a bit, and he built the product management and technical marketing functions there. He also has an MBA from Haas School of Business, UC Berkeley, and an MS.
Thank you,
Awesome. Thank you, Jeeves.
Jiva.
If you could take the talk away, that'd be great.
Thank you, Jiva. Thanks, Jada. Thanks for putting this together. Really appreciate your time, everyone. Jiva asked me to provide some thoughts around my own life experiences and what I've learned from them, to hopefully see if any of that is relevant to you guys. And if you are free to take it, feel free to take it or not. Really, I'm not in a position to prescribe anything. I do have a few slides. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to keep it a little bit more interactive. And obviously, I'm here for the full hour, or as long as you guys need me. My prepared content is not that big, about 15 minutes or so, but I want to make it interactive. So I might ask questions. Feel free to answer them either verbally via audio or through Zoom chat. Either one of that will work for me. And with that, let's see if I can share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. And how about in the presentation mode? Because there are some animations coming in, so I want to make sure it's in presentation mode. Can you guys see the full screen here?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. So I was debating how do I go about this, and what is it really about? What do you want to call this? What's a key theme? And I came across the topic of success, because I'm sure as all of you guys are, if you guys in Stanford OHS and you're in high school, you're gonna be going to colleges, you're gonna be looking at your career. You all have a idea about what you want to do in your lives, but one common theme across all of that is you want to be successful, which is why you are at this prestigious institution, OHS. Otherwise, yeah. So okay, what does it take to be successful? Obviously, definition of success is different for everybody. So I'm not gonna prescribe what success is, but I feel that over the last 30 or so years that I've been in this, I graduated from high school back in actually 30 years ago. Yeah, so 30 years ago, I graduated from high school. And obviously, my definition of success has changed and evolved. But I've learned that there's a few key things that anybody needs to have to be able to be successful. So I'm going to share some of this thing. Before I start, I thought I'll kick it off with a question for everyone. And if I can move forward one slide. All right. So let me ask this thing. What do you guys think? Each one of you guys think, what's the most important ingredient for success? Right? Whatever definition of success you have, what is the one most important ingredient for success? Anything?
Determination.
Yeah, that's a good one. Absolutely. That's very good. Thank you.
For me, probably having a positive attitude, being more optimistic.
Yeah.
Hard work.
That's right. Thank you. Anybody else has a thoughts around that?
Passion for the topic that you're trying to pursue.
Sorry, who was that? Lexi?
Yeah, that's like.
All right, so either you got a peek at my slides or what, but that is what I believe. There's many things you need to do, you need to have, or you can have, but if you don't have the passion to succeed, desire to succeed, whatever the definition being, it's going to be hard. And there's different words to describe. Determination is one of them, hard work is one of them, but there's this passion is something a lot more deep-seated inside yourself. It comes from within. So it's just like, it's intangible, and you know if you have it. And I've seen that actually when I hire people, I build teams and companies. When I hire people, amongst anything else, or either attribute that I look for, do they have the passion to succeed? Because if I believe if you have the passion to succeed, and a few of the things, you'll be successful no matter which field you're in. So I think that's one of the key elements, I believe. Again, it's just my views. Different people have different. So with that, I think I'll start this discussion. I have three things to cover here. Not three slides, but three key themes I want to discuss, which I think are important. And I've learned those through my own mistakes, and over the course of 30 years, things that I did not do before, I stumbled upon them, I learned them, and I did better, and have done me well throughout my career, and at different phases. So I'll share those three things with you. So the first one is this concept of don't be a cat. What is the meaning of that, right? What is a cat? Cat is they're cute, they're cuddly. And then some people don't like cats because they're a little bit shrewd and they're considered shrewd or cunning. But really, what I mean here by don't be a cat is don't be a cat chasing the red dot all the time. I mean, if you've seen some of those memes on the internet, you have a cat, you have a red laser dot, and you shove around, and then the cat will keep going round and round. Don't be a cat. Um, that's not a recipe for success. You'll be going around and chasing the next hard thing, and you'll not be able to get further along in where you want to do. I've seen that, and like I said, all this is my own experiences which I've learned. Some by my own mistakes. Some I was taught, and I went down those paths, and those have done me well. So if you don't be a cat, then what should you be, right? It is one animal you should be. Um, and that animal, I will say, is a hedgehog, right? And why hedgehog? A hedgehog is, if you think about hedgehog, it's a rodent family. So cat and mouse, not really mouse, but really a different cousin of mouse. So it's a hedgehog. But what is a hedgehog? So hedgehog knows one thing and knows one thing very well, does it one thing very well, and its life depends on that, right? That's the definition of hedgehog. So any of you guys have any of you guys have know Jim Collins? Any heard Jim Collins? I heard about him when I was in my business school at Berkeley. So he has this book. Look, you guys are all in Stanford OHS. You're very good at what you do. You're good individuals. You're good students, smart, intelligent. But there's something else that takes you from good to great. And so he has a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And in that book, there's this concept he brings up. It's called the hedgehog concept, right? Which is kind of the framework that I've used in the latter part of my career to get to where I have been and be successful and be happy above all, right? And it centers around three key ideas. Number one, right? As you go forward, you think about what you want to do in your life, right? Always consider those things that you're deeply passionate about. Anything else that you do will be good. You'll feel good. You like it. It'll be ephemeral success. But unless you're deeply passionate about the subject, the topic, lasting success and happiness is usually difficult. And I'll give you my own examples when I'm finished with the slide, what I did and I did not do, and I read about this, didn't resonate earlier. I started thinking about it. I changed some things, and that has helped me a lot. The second thing is you should do what you can be best in the world at. Anything doesn't really matter. It doesn't. You don't have to be a lawyer, or you don't have to be a scientist or a doctor. Anything you want, you can be. Just try to be the best at that. You should have confidence that if I did this, I'll be really good at that. It's your own inner ability to be able to do this. And third thing is definitely it's good that you're passionate about. It's good that you're really good at that, and you're confident you'll be able to succeed. It has to drive your economics as well. I mean, it has to be a place where you can actually make money and pay for yourself. I mean, ultimately, we live in a society that requires, and we're in right. So those are the three things. That's what the inner hedgehog is all about, right? Do something that you're passionate about. Do something that you believe you'll be very good at, if not the best, and it has to be able to pay the bills, right? If you did this, right, success follows it. I've seen people who go after certain career paths, certain field where, because it's a highly paying career path, right? And so they'll go down the path, and halfway in they realize they'll probably doing well compared to their peers in the short term. They'll probably make more money or have you, but they won't be two things. They won't get the satisfaction and happiness, and they will not be able to succeed in the long term. That certainly happened to me. I started off my career as an engineer, and I was a good engineer, and it was good money as well, obviously compared to the peers. Engineering degrees pay well, but a few years into that, I realized it's not my passion. And when it's not my passion, I cannot be very good at that. I cannot be the best. I'll be good, but I can't be great. I can't be the best amongst best in engineers. And so I said, like, that's not going to work, right? My short-term success is not going to take me to further on. So what is the one thing that I really want to do, which I'm really good about, I'm passionate about, and I think I can be good at? And that's the business side, right? I think I had a much better view of the overall how business is run or should be run. I went ahead and I think about 7, 8 years into my career, I said, like, I'm going to change my career path trajectory ever so slightly, and go do my MBA. Went ahead and switched from being a hardcore engineer to a product manager, business manager, general manager, and now a CEO. And that has done me well, right? Um, Again, this is a realization that I came across later on in my career, and I've actually guided some other folks, students earlier on, to chase after the thing that was hot at the time, because something else was not hot, and it hasn't done well, and I'd made some bad choices myself. So I think that's what. Here's another reason why you should not. If you decide, well, this is a particular career path, this is a particular thing that actually is very hot these days. I don't know, pick something. Within our field, in the engineering field, an area which is very hot these days is AI or data science, as they call it, right? Well, okay, fine. You go down the path, you learn the trick, the art, the trade. By the time you get into the workforce, 4, 6, 7, 8 years, right, you don't know where the puck would be. It would have moved somewhere else. So unless you're clairvoyant, unless you can think where the world is going to be 7, 8, 10 years out, it's not easy. And if you are, then I want to be friends with you right now and maybe do some speculation on the world a little bit. But nobody can do that. I mean, yeah, you can be lucky, you can speculate and be successful, but you can't be sure. But if you can't be sure where the world is going to be 8 years from now, you should do what you think is right, what you can do, and have long-term success for that, right? So anyways, that was my first thing I wanted to share with everybody, and this is very important. And I've taken, by the way, I apply this in my company also. Whenever you have a decision point to make about, hey, which business we should expand into, or which region of the world we should go into, which segment, which technology, right? Ask the question. This can be interpreted in a business setting. Okay, do we know what this do? Does the executive team, does the management team know what this? Do we want to do this? Do we like this? Do we feel good about this? Second is, can we really be successful? Can we be the best in that particular technology or segment or use case or segment of the geography of the world? And then, is there economics? Is the market big enough? Can I make money? Can it be profitable? Right? Unless we answer all these three things, we're not going to go down that path just because it satisfies the economics, but either we're not good at that, we don't know how to do it, or we're not passionate about it. So it has to come from that. There was actually a case study, a slightly politically incorrect case study in this particular book, which was actually around Philip Morris. Do you guys know Philip Morris? It's one of the tobacco cigarette companies. And there was a time, I think it was in the 80s and 90s, Philip Morris was the hottest brand, largest growing company. And they did a research on why that was the case. It turns out all the executive team, right, and perhaps even the board of directors, but definitely the executive team, were hardcore chain smokers, right? So they're deeply passionate about it. They knew exactly what they were doing. And obviously that business was making money, of course. So there was some, not suggesting you go down that path, but think about that. This is applicable to your personal life as well as professional life, career as well, and in businesses. All right, so that's the number one thing. The second thing is, you heard this from probably everybody, the power of your network. And well, I grew up not grew up, but my career started when there was no internet, or internet was in the infancy. I'm talking about mid 90s, dial-up modem days. Obviously, there was no iPhone for sure. So there was no LinkedIn, there was no Instagram or Facebook, what have you, right? But and so there was the concept of network was a little bit abstruse for most people, including myself. But what I've learned is that it's very important. And there's a couple of things around that. Why, right? So you gotta build relationships. And here I'm not talking about professional relationships, any relationship. I mean, your own friends relationship you're making with your neighbors, and with of course, as you go, as in your career as well, in your on the offices and your colleagues and your schools. So building relationships is very important. Um, be genuinely nice to people, right, on your way up, because you've heard that. I mean, you be nice to people you know because you'll meet them on your way down. Now, I'm not wishing that we come down, but still, it's just good. You just you that's the how you build lasting relationships with people, and that's the depth and strength of your network. If you're nice to them, um, I've seen many of people. Perhaps I was one of them as well. I don't know. I can't. I mean, I don't know. But going up, they would step on somebody else to get there. It's okay. Temporarily, you'll win, but you burnt a very important bridge, which you'll come back. You might need them somebody else, right? So just be nice to people, because you never know when you'll need them for what. It doesn't have to be on your way down. To perhaps you've gone up and then you want to go further up in your career and you need to leverage somebody else's help who actually you met or worked with 5 years ago. But if you've not been nice to them, they will not help you get to the next level. So just be very careful. And the third thing is, you heard this, it takes a village, and it's in the context of professional life, it has a different meaning. What it means here is that all the people, so your success is a sum total of effort and of all the people you ever come in touch with, either explicitly or implicitly. By explicitly, I mean they've done some things that might have helped you, right? They've taught you something, or they've given you some explicit help about, okay, I'm gonna do this work for you tonight, so I know you're busy, etc. So every single small thing that they've done has contributed to where you are right now. That's explicit help. Implicitly, they've touched you, they've shaped you, they've whatever you've learned, either emotionally, intellectually, or professionally, a part of that is attributable to people you have come in touch with, come in contact with. So that's what I mean by it takes a village. It really, it's all about making sure that network is not just a network, it's actual people, right? So you gotta be, you have to know them, you have to build deep bonds with them, genuine bonds with them, because they are responsible for your success and failure. Some in higher measures, some people in fewer less measure, but there's always some impact for everybody you've come in touch with, who is responsible and will be responsible for where you're going next. Start with your parents, of course, they have a big, your teachers, your colleagues, your peers, your friends, even personal friends who you hang out with, even the people who you interact with Instagram have some attribution to your success, even though it's small, infinitesimally small, but there is something. So it does take, and the whole notion of self-made person, self-made, I think that it's true to a certain extent, but I think they're overlooking the fact that there's always been some impact of other people on them, even subconsciously. That's my second thing. And then the last one is just be a good human being. And this is something I've learned latter part of my career, because in the first part, I mean, look, you're just coming out of your high school, the world is your oyster, you determined to succeed, you'll do all these things are very second or third nature to you, because you have big hills to climb in front of you. You have to do your SATs, and you have to do your college apps, and you have to go excel in your college, and then go and take a job. But to me also, it was the same thing. I was just like you, just I got to get the next step. Next step is do my SATs and then my GMATs and GREs and go to college, get my first job, and then from there we'll transition to the next job, and so on and so forth. That's all good. And in the early part of your career, just it's running out, but take a pause. And I've learned this in the second half of my career, that being a good human being is equally important and will go a long way towards your success and happiness. And happiness also contributes significantly to success. So what has been empathy for others, right? really it goes back to, as I mentioned in the previous slide, is genuinely just have genuine interest about other people and feel for them, not just because you want to build a LinkedIn relationship or Instagram or so how many people. Just be genuine. A fewer number of people who you are genuinely connected with, either via LinkedIn professionally or via personally, emotionally, is better than having thousands of people who you've never even talked to. Right? I come across several candidates who we want to hire in the companies. I have 5,000 LinkedIn followers or professionals, whatever, right? LinkedIn. And I'm thinking, well, what does it mean? Do you even talk to them? When was the last person time you talked to even a tenth of them, right? The depth is important and comes from empathy with these people. The second is intellectual curiosity, right? Never stop learning. I don't care. I don't care how smart that person is, how successful they are. They can't know everything. Nobody can. It's human beings, right? It's nature. So, and good leaders never stop learning, even when they reach the top. Do you think Tim Cook or Satya Nadella will be thinking, "Oh, I'm the CEO of Apple or Microsoft, and so I've arrived and I don't need to do anything"? No, they're always learning explicitly. They make it a conscious effort. They're either reading books, maybe not so much on the technical side, maybe a little bit on the business side, but definitely on the human side. In fact, they're learning because the entire and they're not learning just to get better and even better in their career. They're learning because of real intellectual curiosity. So I've come across many people who have a lot of ego around, hey, I know everything, and I have some people in my team. They're very senior people. They're actually a lot more experienced than I am. But the emotional intelligence comes from the fact that you are always in the learning mode. Which brings me to the next point, which is think about what you can do better for the world, not just for yourself alone. And this is a loaded word, and I have also come to realize a little bit later in my professional career, right? And particularly in the tech world, right, where many people come in and I want to start a company, I want to do this, and startups all the rage, right? If you think about all or most of the startups, right, they were founded with one idea, which is I'm going to solve this problem in the world. I'm going to solve world hunger. I'm going to help people connect. I'm going to do this, right? It wasn't about I'm going to build something and sell it and make a lot of money, right? It wasn't about me. It wasn't about the founder. It was always about they good entrepreneurs, good founders, good human beings by extension always see, hey, what is a problem in the world, a hole in the world that I can plug? Because if I can do that, if I can do that well, and I'm a good human being, and I have empathy for others, and I have built a good network, success follows automatically. The success will follow if you're able to solve a bigger problem for the world, because the world will, it may not happen overnight, it may take time, but in the long run, I'm talking about long, I'm not talking about next 5 years, I'm talking at the end of your career, the other side of your career, you're just about to start your career, you'll come back and look at it, okay, if I had solved this, and I would have been in a different place, right? That's the whole thing about solving for the better of the world. Again, this is, think about it a little bit more. Again, think of this last point as you're not doing this to, in the most um, in the most cynical way of thinking is, I'm going to go solve world hunger in the world hunger, or I'm going to solve some big problem in the world because it has betterment for human beings or society or people, right? But I'm going to get a disproportionate amount of value out of solving that problem. So ultimately, it's back at me, and that's fine, right? But you're not doing it, hey, I'm going to try to drive a lot more value, because that's ephemeral success. If you look at the company Theranos, I don't know how to pronounce it, Theranos. It's a biotech company. They built some blood testing gears. It was a high-flying company, made a lot of money and all stuff. The founders were crooked. It was actually, and so they got busted. And the whole thing, billions of dollars, I think, came crumbling because their focus was, how can I make money versus how can I actually solve the world problem, which was, how can I get these blood test kits out to make them very portable so they can be, anybody can taste it. So they try to do shortcuts to get these things out without thinking about the larger problem. Obviously, they said that, but their ulterior motives were something else. So that's another example where you solve for the problem, right? Which is, and I'm not saying be completely altruistic, because it ultimately has to be, but if you do that and do that well, success follows automatically. And the last one is be humble and accepting of your mistakes, right? And that goes back to some earlier points. No one is right all the time. You're always, I'm always learning, and I'm sure others are also. I'm just but think of the big guys, right? There are people who are successful and who are not humble. I don't know. I heard Steve Jobs was one of them. I've read a lot about that. But those are exceptions. These people are geniuses, and they can get by being. But generally speaking, all good leaders are humble, right? And that's to me is a clear definition of a good human. If you can do this, this will help you in your career as well, and long-term success. So with that, I think I have just one more quiz then. So I asked somebody, hey, how do you be successful? And I think somebody answered, I think maybe it was Ben or Reed, I forget, hard work. And yes, that's very important. There is one substitute for hard work though. What is it? Take a guess. Take a wild guess. The sign on the right side should give you a hint that it's not something you should rely on.
Money?
Cheating?
Yeah, money, cheating, those are somewhat in your control, but something else.
Luck?
Yeah, that's right. It is luck. So now you decide that if you want to substitute hard work with luck and ride your luck to success, or do you want to take things in your control and put in the hard yards? And there's no guarantee you'll be successful. But if you do that work, and if you do other things, you have a very good chance. But if you just don't do anything, then you're just riding on lady luck, which is not advisable according to me. All right, that's it. That's all I have prepared. I'm happy to answer any questions. Anything I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll let you know. I don't know the answer, but as much as I can tell you.
Awesome. So you guys can just feel free to click in the participants and raise your hand, and then we can call and ask.
Yes, Reed, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you for coming and talking to us. Could you, I guess, talk a bit about your journey, I guess, going through, I guess, post-business school and becoming the CEO of Pavilion, I guess, happened from A to B,
Yeah.
and am I breaking up?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out. So I heard you about business school and A to B, but I'm trying to piece the rest of the sentence together.
Okay, let me move closer to my mic. I think that might help. Basically just what your journey was from, I guess, like after business school when you made a transition to becoming the CEO of Pavilion. I guess like what steps you took and what challenges there were.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I was an engineer all through prior to that. And I started so rewind the clock a little bit more to give you full context, right? So I did my master's from UCLA in electrical engineering and got a very good, well-paying starting job at Northern Telecom, a big company, multinational, multi-billion-dollar company here in the Valley, very prestigious. It's doing very good. But then I started, sometimes in 3-4 years into that, I realized that, hey, I'm not getting further because I'm not just interested in doing the same thing every day, right? And that's where I realized, okay, I got to do something else. What is that? And okay, I got to expand. I did not know what I needed to do, want to do, but I know I need to expand my horizon a little bit more. So went back to school, MBA, and while others in my peer group, this is 2005 and 6, just before the big financial crash of 2008, if you guys remember. Several of my colleagues, they came with a very preconceived notion, right? I'm going to be an investment banker, or I'm going to be a financial equity research guy. They went in, and a couple of them are very successful even now. But what they did not anticipate, because at the time, it was supposed to be very cool to be an investment banker, right? It was supposed to be the hottest industry to be in and be the best profession. It's very glamorous. You're in and out, you wine and dining. So they all jumped. Many of them were also ex-engineers that jumped that side. They wanted to jump. As we started the whole MBA circuit, and by the time we came out 2008, and everything was shut down. All the banks had gone belly up. Lehman Brothers, you heard that. The whole financial industry sector was done. So this goes back to my point about they were trying to chase after the next red hot dot. And within a matter of 2 years, while they were doing MBA, they took all the courses in that. They wanted to do internships. They did 1 or 2 internships. By the time the campus recruitment came in, it was all gone. The whole banks were shut down. I didn't have any great real insight in what I want to do. I knew I wanted to do more and different. So I did a general management path. Okay, let me do a little bit of marketing, a little bit of finance, a little bit of supply chain operations to get a full purview of what else is out there than just product development. And with that, I got my first job was at Microsoft as a strategy consultant. Strategy consult Microsoft. Typically, strategy consultants work for McKinsey, Bain, BCG, one of those big 4 or 5 strategy consult companies, management consulting companies. I got lucky because Microsoft, as a big company, has their own internal strategy division. They are big enough and they can afford to create their own 10-people strategy team. And my peers were all McKinsey guys, Bain guys. They're top-notch management consultants. And I spent 2 years with them, learned from them. But having an MBA is I mean, it's nothing. Nothing you can learn in MBA you cannot learn yourself. It's all about network and expanding your outlook, right? So coming out of MBA school, doing this Microsoft 2-year gig in the company of all these strategy consultants, immediately exposed me to 15 different areas of the business, which I had not known or not. So if there's a crash course in building a company or or running a company or a business, strategy consulting is probably the best way, because every 3 months you get exposed to a different part of the business. I got projects around pricing. I got projects I did over there around new market entry, segmentation. I got projects around supply chain, and I got projects over there for I did projects for support, customer support, optimization. So the way it works is you have 2 or 3 people, small team with 2 to 3 people. Every 3 to 6 months, you parachute into a different problem statement that the business is facing. You go and you analyze, and you quantify, qualify, and you make a recommendation to the executive staff, and then that becomes a strategy for that particular problem statement. So you're answering questions, the complex problems that a business are facing in different elements. So that's like a 2 years of rotation across all different areas of business. So that was a good learning. From there, I realized pretty quickly that what I want to do is general management, business management. And one thing I was really good at, I knew my background was technology. I knew enough to be dangerous, but I did not know the depth. So I went back out of the strategy consulting. One thing about strategy is you're doing a lot of analysis and recommendations and creating strategy, but you're not executing. You're not in the path of implementing a strategy. Your job is to provide strategy, get a buy-in from executives, and then step out and let the functional teams come in and execute to that. I felt a little bit unfulfilled that, hey, I'm not doing that. I actually want to take this whole thing through from start to finish, not just, I'm going to use a word which might be politically incorrect. I don't want to just sit there and pontificate on what the right thing should be. I actually want to execute that and see if it actually is successful, is workable. So from there, I went to product management. Product management or business management is a stepping stone towards business management, general management. You are a product manager. You're responsible for from the top to bottom of the entire product, from conception to end of life and everything that goes in the middle, right? And it teaches you a lot of people skills also, because you don't own all the people. You don't own support. You don't own engineering. You don't own marketing. You don't own, but you are the glue logic. So you have to work by influencing. You own the P&L. You own the business. You're responsible for how much the money your product is going to make, but none of these people report into you. So you have to learn a lot of influence them to your path by explaining them and winning them over. So that was a people skill also, but also gives you aperture into all the other areas of function, from supply chain to support. So, and it gives you real ownership. And ultimately, it's not just about 3-month strategy, it's about multi-year value creation that you're doing here. That's what I did. Of course, started over there, and my product line that I was doing kept getting better and better, and the business getting bigger. So obviously, as product manager, your success is determined by your product success in the market, and automatically that helped me a lot. From there, a few years after that, within 4 or 5 years, I switched to a startup, a small company. Brocade had become pretty big, and it became a little bit political as well. So I decided I'm going to go back to a startup. I went to a startup called Pure Storage, about 100 people only. I was the first product guy. I was a bunch of engineers and a bunch of sales guys trying to figure out what to build and what to sell. But the product manager's job is to define the market strategy, product market fit strategy, and then play how do you take that and rinse and repeat across. So I came in as the first product manager, and sure enough, the company, I'm not going to attribute everything to me. The company became super successful. 3 years, 3.5 years later, the IPO at $3 billion. Was about 3,000 people at the time, and I think the revenue had gone from zero when I came in to a little over $500 million. And so I left after in around 4 years, became successful with that, and your brand get established with the product and the company. And that's how, I mean, you can say I got lucky both the times I picked the right product or the product picked me. But yeah, there is some element of that. Ultimately, luck has play, but you put in hard work, you put in effort, and it wasn't the hardest thing to do, by the way. Storage is not the hardest thing. You can go to AI and all the stuff, but I knew I could do this well. I knew I was passionate about it. And if you're successful, anything you can be, if you're good at this, you can be successful. It doesn't matter what the space is, right? Even today, everybody's saying, hey, well, how come you're not doing cloud and artificial intelligence? And so, look, I could do that. I have to go relearn all those things, right? But I know I'm good at this, and I think we can, and I'm ready to put in hard work, and we'll be successful here. So that's what, and from there, after I left Pure Storage, I got approached by several VCs to come and be part of their portfolio companies, and this was one of them. I looked at many of them for about a year, and I came across this one, which seemed pretty interesting. The technology was really good. The team was good. They did not know what to do from a market standpoint, and that's what I came in and built around this. That was about 3 years ago now here. Does that answer your question, Reed?
Yeah,
Just a high level trajectory. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anybody else? Any had the question?
Hi, thank you for coming and sharing your experiences with us. I was wondering, where do you envision the rest of your career going?
Thanks, Ben. Look, that's a good point. One of the things I did not mention in my slide deck, which you'll come across many career coaches, build your 15-year plan and then 10-year plan and 5-year plan. Where I am, I call it as I'm in the sixth or bottom of the sixth or seventh inning of my career, right? So I think there's going to be a few more of this. I have to, first of all, I have to make this company successful, right? We're early stages. We're about 100 people right now. We're doing some good business, including with the U.S. government. Some solid, but there's still a lot of hard work needs to be done from this point on to make it successful. That'll take a few years. I think beyond that, at some point I want to retire, of course. I'm not saying now or 2 years, but that's my end goal. And for that, I know what I'm going to be doing. I think I'm going to be teaching up here in my local junior college, right close to our home. So it's the bridge between, once this company is successful, I'll probably move on to the next one. But I also want to build my own company from scratch. This is not my company. I didn't build this company. I was hired by the investors to run and lead this company, and then build around it, which I've done for the last 3 years. But at some point, I want to be able to build my own. My next I think is going to be my own startup, which I built from scratch, from ground up. That requires a lot of grit, patience, a lot of luck, of course, a lot of hard work. So I'm prepared to do that. I think that probably will be my last gig before I retire. So if to put it back in the perspective, thank Hallie just for a second, sorry. To put a perspective of what I was sharing earlier on, what is it that I'm deeply passionate about? I'm deeply passionate about creating something, building something. That's what I want to do. And until I do that, I won't feel satisfied. So I have to do that, and that's my calling. That'll be the next and perhaps the last thing in my career. Hallie.
Yeah, and like everyone said, thank you so much for being here. I think this has been really helpful. So you mentioned, the idea of like a 10 or 15-year plan or forever, how long, I was wondering, how do you approach a more significant obstacle that redirects or even halts those long?
That's a good question. And as I think about this, actually, I did have some of those in my personal life. Just around the time when I was doing my MBA and all set to go conquer the world, some personal situation happened with my parents and my mom particularly. Um, but I think that's where, for me, the way I got out of that and was able to continue down. I mean, obviously, there's a bit of a setback you have a little bit, not just setback, but a pause. But it goes back to your network, right? As I mentioned, it takes a village. So my family, my friends all came. Um, I'm not saying physically, but they were there in support of me, us, our family, and it was a trying, testing year and a half to 2 years time. But we went through that. We passed that. And my mom was already sick. She came out through that. So that was a big thing. And she used to live with us, so she was old. So it was a bit of that. So I think in my case, I got lucky that I had support of my immediate family and some very good personal friends. And at the professional level, also my peers were understanding. So it was trying times, but I think we went through that. Other than that, I think if you're not so fortunate about having that close family friend circle or network, right? That's what I'm saying. Make friends and make deep bonds with them now when you don't need them, because at some point you'll need them, and also at some point they'll need you also. So it's not just like you're trying to use them, but that's the whole thing about, right? And people are generally nice. They want to help. Um, they want to help if you ask for them, so that's the whole thing about, for me, that's how I was able to get through that particular phase. And it was just me. It was the whole family was a bit of it was a trying time for us.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Any other question? Callie, you have another question? Go ahead.
Yeah. I guess so. With your focus of being passionate, being such a instrumental part of success, I guess, how was your journey finding something that you were passionate for? Because at least personally, sometimes it's hard for me to figure out exactly, like what it is
Yeah.
I'm completely passionate for,
That's a good question, Ashley. Like I mentioned, two things, right? One is, in the early years, you're right, absolutely right. You don't know what you're ultimately passionate about, right? And the second thing is, your passion will also evolve over time, right? As you mature, as your thinking evolves, as you meet more people, you get influenced by them, right? So yes, it's an ongoing thing. It's a self journey and evolution. Um, I'll tell you, way back when I was in high school, actually not even high school, it was middle school, and computers were just coming off the chute. There's like just, and our school had a computer, and that was fascinating for me. I was just blown away by computers, and so that was my passion, and I was very good at that throughout my school. My high school was top the class and all computer related classes courses, because we started having that. And so much so that carried forward in my education, college education. But when I went to work, first year or two was super interesting, but then it became not so interesting because I knew I could not. So I wish there, but the only thing I can say is I think you will know when you do something. And hopefully, unlike me, you will know sooner than later. Uh, but look, even in my case, it was a good, solid foundation upon which I was able to build. Both foundation from a content standpoint, I understand technology very well, but also content a foundation from understanding that I don't know it well, so I got to do something else. So it's good and bad. Whether you're successful or fail in your first attempt at trying to do, you learn inevitably. Either you learn that this is exactly this is what your sweet spot is, or you learn that this is not it, and you'll evolve from there. So there's no right or wrong here. You just have to go through the motions. Uh, if you're able to hit for example, some of the successful guys, earlier on, they said, this is what I want to do. And they did that, and they were passionate about it. They're good at that. And they become, so Mark Zuckerberg is one of them. He started Facebook. He dropped out of college. Bill Gates dropped out of college, right? Because he was passionate and he was right on. But there's several other people, myself included, the first passion didn't click, second one, and finally, I think I found my groove where it's okay, I know what I'm good at, and this is what I want to do, and that's what I'm doing right now. It's just but you should realize, you should be open to learn. That's the whole point of intellectual curiosity. Always learn and be ready to accept mistakes and move on. Jada.
Yeah, sorry, the host doesn't get a raise hand button. But I was wondering, so you said your calling was to start a startup, and I was wondering what made you decide to wait to do the startup and work at the company, and like how did you decide that like, oh, I'm going to make the sacrifice and wait, or is it something that you've more recently wanted to do?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The answer is a bit of both. Like I mentioned, the best time to do a startup is right out of college, right? So back in when I first got out of college in 90s, there wasn't much of a startup ecosystem, because the world was dominated by, like it is at the time, it was a different set of big companies, IBM and Cisco of the world, but there wasn't much of a startup ecosystem at the time. So, but still, there were people doing startups. Don't get me wrong, .com boom was all about startups, but I was too early in my thinking, and also as a immigrant, having come straight from India and the money was good. This is where I made a short-term call where, okay, I'm getting a great salary. Do I want to go down the path of doing a startup and duke it out for next 4 or 5 years with little to no money and see where it takes me? So I opted not for that. Second time, and that was the first time. That was right after my UCLA career, right? A UCLA degree. When I came out of Berkeley, same thing, 2008, right? So okay, I want to do it now. And two things happened. The whole financial crash, 2008. It was being talked about the next depression, because the banks themselves went under. Many banks went under, and those that survived had to take heavy subsidies from the government. And there's a merger, so the whole financial market had constricted. And second thing was my own, as I mentioned, my own personal thing, where I went through this personal situation at home as well with mom's health. So at that point, we discussed and decided maybe not the right time either. So I missed those two things. And so then the next time is, if you're successful, if you have a couple of successes under your belt, then you become a lot more, and it becomes easier for you to go start up. Now that I have a success with Pure Storage, and if hopefully it'll be successful here at Pavilion, it becomes the next quite obvious position, first time in your career to be able to do this. Reed, question.
When you're doing a startup, or I guess if you end up doing a startup, do you have any idea what you would do it in, whether it would still be data storage, or if you would go into some other?
That's a good question. I have not given it that much of a thought, but I don't want to do data storage because I know data storage. I want to do something, like I said, where I think there's a problem exists and I can solve somebody's real problem. Those are the most authentic insights about doing a startup. And it also ties back to my earlier comment, right? Sure, you should do what you're good at, but you should also do something not just because you want to. You should do something because it actually solves a real problem for somebody, for the world. Because if you did that, everything else just follows from there, right? So I have to come across a problem statement that's interesting enough that others are facing, not me. Not because I don't want to start up because I wanted to start up. That's not a. But I wanted to start up because I want to come across an insight, which I'm seeing that people are facing a problem. Could be anything. It need not. It may not even be technology. It could be something else. Who knows? But right now I'm focused on this, trying to get this successful, and I'll take a look at that after that. Does that answer your question, Reed?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Any other question? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, you have my contact information through Jeevat. I'm happy to answer specific questions via email. I'm also on Twitter, though not very active. I'm more active on LinkedIn, but that's fine. I'm trying to be more active on Twitter. It's a bit of a voyeuristic. I actually read a lot. I don't write a lot because I don't want to express a lot of my opinions at this point. I'm gonna get out and do that later on. But anyways, thank you for hosting me. Anything else, Jada? Where do you want to go? You want to close it out, or?
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much. This was a really informative and very helpful talk. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come here and talk to all of us. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. And yeah, I think just see you all next week. We will have a talk with a pianist, actually Mark's piano teacher at 2 p.m. EST. PST, sorry, not EST. But yeah, thank you so much. This was a really great talk, and I'll see you all next week.